Hi, and welcome to Mom Boss Chronicles. We are your host. I am Jen.
I'm Sue.
And we are empowering and inspiring people through meaningful conversations. So make sure to like and subscribe to listen to great content weekly.
Welcome back to Mom Boss Chronicles. We have a special guest with us here today. This is Kristine Carlson. She is a #1 New York Times bestselling author of Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, which was co-authored with her husband, Dr. Richard Carlson. I am so pumped to have you here today. Jen read the book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. I haven't cracked into it just yet because I was reading Heartbroken Open, but I think I mentioned this to you the last time I spoke to you. I feel like Don't Sweat the Small Stuff was the moniker of the early 2000s. And even driving over here today, you know, someone cuts you off and you're like, bah! And then I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, I'm literally going to chat with the author of Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Let's take a breath.
Yes.
But thank you so much for coming on today. We're really excited to chat with you. I guess, you know, reading Heartbroken Open, and we'll get into that in the moment, but I love the story of you and your husband, just that you are college sweethearts, you met at Pepperdine, and obviously Wikipedia gives a lot of info, but I'm a zodiac nerd, and you are a Cancer, and your husband is a Taurus, and that is such a wonderful, beautiful match. They say that signs that are two before and after, you travel in karmic groups together, so your souls have been there before and we'll meet up again. So, I mean, obviously as kids that you guys met in college, and I'm just so curious how you kind of came together on this book. I mean, I know your husband was a psychotherapist and helped people with managing stress and everything, but would love to hear how the collaboration started.
Well, ironically, that the Don't Sweat the Small Stuff book was Richard's 10th book.
Wow.
So it took him 10 years to really hit that chord. He'd written many books on, psychology, principles of happiness, where really the East meets the West. He was very much a forerunner, a pioneer in the field of positive psychology and mindfulness, really. I mean, he was talking about things, 30 years ago that people weren't talking about. And
Right.
really,
Before it was trendy. Yeah.
yeah, before it kind of paved the way for people to understand that your thoughts do create your reality and that your moods matter to your experience and that we live in separate realities where we all see the world through our own lens and that present moment living and living in gratitude were really, those are the highest forms of life that you can actually experience. So he was very, was very cutting edge 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And he didn't start his career out as an author, although I do think that he aspired to writing books from early on. He was a tennis star at Pepperdine University, like a star. He was slated #1 on the #1 team in the nation. So he had played Wimbledon that summer. And I met him at the beginning of school. I was 18, he was 20. And it was just the most weirdest thing. I mean, I met him and I was just like, I know every young girl has kind of a list of the kinds of qualities that they would look for in a husband. But I never thought that I would meet my husband at that age because the man that I wanted to meet was way more mature than most, 18 to 21-year-old men. And when I met Richard, I just had this overwhelming feeling of feeling myself, just feeling really grounded in myself in a way that as an 18-year-old girl, I had never felt with a guy for sure, especially a really attractive guy. I just felt so myself with him. And I remember walking up to the dorm room and calling my mom and on Sunday and saying, she asked me, are you dating anybody? And I said, well, yeah, I've been on a few dates, but I think I just met the man I'm going to marry. I'd only just met him.
But you knew.
Yeah, and it was that familiarity that we both felt, that we fell in love really fast. And we just always had this really very strong, deep, loving, unconditional loving connection. I like to say, and I've said this to my friends, that in 25 years of my relationship with Richard, he never said a cross word to me. And it really spoke to the nature of who he was as a man. He just was very, very good natured. He had a really high level of awareness of himself. He had very deep values of kindness, of living, treating people really well. And in fact, most people who were in his presence just always felt like they were the only person in the world when he talked to them because he was so present with them. So, he's just a wonderful husband, a wonderful father. And 10 years into his writing career, after he'd started his career completely different like direction, but it kind of played into it. He started his career as a rolfer, which is a bodywork therapist.
Mm.
And then he was like pretty quickly decided that wasn't going to be his end game. And then he got his master's and PhD in psychology because he did want to write books. And
It was like a calling for him, I guess. Like he just felt called to do it.
he loved Wayne Dyer and he aspired, to be Wayne Dyer.
Oh,
He just he loved Wayne Dyer. Like that was he was just loved everything that Wayne Dyer wrote, read
yeah.
everything he wrote. And so yeah, so that's how his career started. And back at Pepperdine, it was so funny because I had shared with them in that first meeting a way that he could get off campus. Like Pepperdine has these really crazy rules and you have to live on campus for at least a year. And but I don't know why, but I had somehow found the way off, like how you could get out of it. So I shared with him that. So I didn't see him for 2 weeks because he was busy getting off campus. And then we bumped into each other in the cafeteria. And at the time, I was really nervous. Like I was interviewing with Wilhelmina artist representative. They'd come from Oregon. That was a whole other story. And they called me and I was like, what? And so I had this big interview that day and I was so nervous. I could barely eat, but I got up really early. And I even remember what I was wearing. Like I was wearing like I know, a red flannel plaid shirt, white sweatpants, and my hair
Wow.
was pulled back in a French braid and I had no makeup on.
Mhm.
And I walked down and Richard was the only person in the cafeteria and he was down and I saw him and I was so nervous for this interview but I knew that if I didn't go say hi to him, he wouldn't think I liked him. And I'd been looking for him for 2 weeks. Like, where is that guy? And so I went down and I sat down with him. And the moment I sat down, I just had that calm come over me again. And I didn't even tell him what I was going to do that afternoon. I just had this feeling of calm come over me. And then we got into this conversation and I asked him why he was always wearing sweatpants because he was very humble, even as a young man. He'd been redshirted, which means you can't play competitive
Right.
when you transfer schools. So he'd been redshirted. He was the captain as a freshman at San Jose State. He'd been recruited to Pepperdine and was seeded number one, but he didn't say that. And so I thought I knew the whole tennis team because they were the hottest guys on campus. And so I asked him, I was like, well, why are you always wearing sweats? He goes, oh, I hit with the team. And I was like, oh, you hit with the tennis team? Oh, I've never seen you. He's like, so yeah, I'm kind of on the low down right now, but I hit with them. And I thought he was kind of like their ball boy. So I was
Right.
just like,
Not a good
I
player.
was like, I was like, okay, nobody on the tennis
That's
team.
so
And
funny.
I know. And then I said, well, do you love tennis? And he just looked at me and he goes, nobody's ever asked me that before. And I said, well, don't you spend a lot of time doing it? And he goes, yeah, about 8 hours a day. I go, well, that's a job. You don't love doing it? And he goes, not really. And I said, well, you should quit then. And he was like, he looked at me and I swear to God, I'm not kidding you. He fell in love with me in that moment.
Yep.
Oh.
And he looked at me and goes, nobody's ever told me that before either. And then I went back to my dorm room and I was talking with my suite mate about my interview that afternoon. And I said, oh my God, I've just met the coolest guy. And she's like, what's his name? And I go, his name's Richard Carlson. And she just dropped everything. And she looked at me, she goes, you met Richard Carlson? And I was like, yeah, why? Who's Richard Carlson?
Should I
And
know him? Right.
yeah, and she pulled the Pepperdine Voice, the newspaper out, and there was
Wow.
Richard. His feet were like 3.5 feet off the ground, and his arm was pulled back, and he had this grimace on his face, and it said Richard Carlson, number one seed at Pepperdine,
Oh,
redshirted this year. And I about flipped. Like I
yeah.
was like, oh my God, I go, wow, I just told him to quit
Yeah.
tennis. And you know what? That year he quit.
Oh,
Yeah.
And
You know what? Because you were keeping it real, right? You
yes.
know?
yeah, yeah. Well, it was like the first, I think that was our one part of our soul contract was he needed my support
Mhm.
do the things that he was meant to do in the
Yep.
world. And I was always that, like I always supported him in his decisions because he needed that extra, everyone does. I
Yes.
mean, everyone needs that person that says, go for it, do
Yes.
what's in your heart,
Yep.
don't do what you're told to do
Yes.
what's right for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of always my role. And I always kept him on track, throughout our entire marriage. It was about me really holding space for him, keeping him on track, helping him when his life blew open from being so in demand, which it was quite crazy. There was a couple years where he was in such high demand. I mean, flying all over the country, doing interviews on every national television show, on Oprah like 5 times,
Mhm.
just so much media and so much. And
And that
Richard
happened
was,
overnight, I guess.
well, it happened overnight when Don't Sweat the Small
Yeah.
Stuff
Yeah.
took off.
So
Right.
for
Yeah.
so for 10 years
Yeah.
you were living your life, just yeah. And then
I mean, I literally like went from driving in a Isuzu Rodeo to a Range Rover in
right.
like a, it felt like a very short period of time
Right.
Yes.
because our whole lives just changed,
Yeah.
Hmm.
with the success of that book. And a lot of that happened because of the timing of it, that was at the very 1997 was at the beginning of really this, email
Yeah.
Hmm.
technology boom, the dot-com era,
Internet.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
internet. Yeah. And he died right about the time that Facebook was starting,
Oh,
Right.
so around 2006, but
Hmm.
Facebook really got popular in about 2006,
Yep.
2007.
yeah.
And so yeah, so it was a crazy time, and yeah, and it just changed our lives.
Yeah.
But it also, what was really amazing for Richard was he really still prioritized the family, and he would often turn down huge things just to be at a spelling bee, or to
Yeah, of
be,
course.
to be at the things that the girls were really important to the girls. And I think there was a part of him in his consciousness or subconscious that had this strong feeling like he might not live a really long
Yeah.
life,
Oh,
because he really did live as presently as he possibly could, and he was certainly very present for our daughters and for me. So
that's amazing.
yeah. And then fast forward at the 10th anniversary of Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, he got on a flight to New York, and on the descent of that flight, he passed away, died suddenly from a pulmonary embolism.
Wow.
So it was like he was 45, I was
Oh,
43. We
yeah.
had girls 14 and
Yeah.
17. It was just like, wow, what a time to
And
have
talk
that
about the
happen.
rug truly being
Yes.
ripped underneath you,
Yes, I
you know?
saw the movie Don't Sweat the Small Stuff.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I did, and Heather Locklear played you, and oh, such a profound moment when you get the call in the car, and I don't know if that's how it really happened, but either way,
Oh, it's exactly how it happened.
it
She
was
came she
just
came out
chills.
here. Oh, I
Yeah.
know. She came out here, and yeah, they did an amazing job with that, because that's exactly what happened. Even the
Yeah.
woman who shielded her daughter from me, as I was crumbled, screaming on the ground,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like just in absolute trauma and terror,
Mhm.
Agony. Yeah.
agony. Yeah, I
And
mean,
it's like not even, you're so far away. I mean, I just like, obviously I lost my husband unexpectedly as well, but I was there,
Mhm.
and but like how it's so out of your control. How are you going to get to New York in 2 seconds?
I
And you
know.
can't. And
And process what just happened.
right.
It's so hard to process everything that's happening.
Especially
yeah.
considering the life you guys had together. I
Hmm.
mean, college sweethearts, meeting, so young, having teenage daughters. I mean, that in
Hmm.
itself
Yes.
is a challenge and an
Yeah.
interesting time,
And
and
the
all of
success
that.
of his book. I'm grateful
Hmm.
he was able to see that. I'm grateful he was able to see the world needed Don't Sweat the Small Stuff.
Yeah, he did. He really, I think he understood at the time of his death the impact that he'd had. I mean,
Yeah.
Sure.
he really did. He was standing in the kitchen just like maybe a week before he died, and he said, he was showing me the 10th anniversary book that they had launched to celebrate the anniversary. And he was like, Chris, what's really cool about, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff is that every 10 years there's going to be a whole new group of people
Oh,
that need this book. And
yes.
and he's like, so it's really going to be it's a timeless book.
Yes, I got the
Absolutely.
book. So I graduated college in 2005. I'm like, what year? And he wrote the book, you said, in 97. So I remember graduating college. I graduated with a history degree. I thought I was going to be a teacher. And I had like an existential crisis. Like it felt like I didn't want to be a teacher anymore. What did I go to school for? What am I going to be? I'm, 22 years old. Like, what will my future look like? I was literally having a breakdown.
Yeah.
And my husband's father had passed away, and he had the book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, on him. And Gary,
Jen's married to her college sweetheart as
yes.
well.
Oh,
Yes.
nice.
And my husband, he was my boyfriend at the time. My boyfriend's like, my dad had this book. That was like one of the few things my dad had with him, but it looks pretty interesting. Maybe you should read it. And I'm so grateful I did because it taught me to just be calm and not stress about things I couldn't control and trust, in myself and then I did, Gary and I have lived a beautiful life. And I really feel like this book and what it teaches you is the principles I try to live by. So,
Oh, I love that. And your story is a very common one. I hear a lot, even from people like Tony Horton, like just all these, guru people.
Yeah.
They say that Don't Sweat the Small Stuff was the first self-help book they ever read, and it
mhm.
changed their lives.
And it was
So
a great, easy read. Like, I feel like the
easy
way he did it, wrote it, it's like information you're able to process, digest. It makes sense.
and put to use.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because some people, especially like we were saying, he was ahead of his time. And, folks back in the day be like, well, that's just woo woo. And that's, this is like far out there,
Yes.
that's not how we operate kind of thing. And I just appreciate that. Like, it's almost as if he was put here on this planet to share that message and to be the initiator of that ethos of life that we should be living by.
Yeah, he stayed away from anything that was too spiritual or
Yeah.
too woo-woo. Like he was pretty woo-woo, but
Well, you
but
guys
we
went to an.
both were.
I was in Heartbroken Open. I was intrigued to read that you guys traveled to an ashram in India
Yeah.
together.
That's
I'd
We
love to hear.
really we were quite on the edge most of our young adult life with everything
Yeah.
we did. We started meditating when we were, in college at
That's so
Pepperdine.
cool.
I was carrying around crystals in class,
I love that.
That's awesome.
It was like we'd done all these different therapies, just so much. We had like, I don't know, I hate to say this, but his dad he'd made a comment once that said anything that we wanted to do that would improve ourselves, he would pay for. And so we did it all.
I love
Yeah.
it. You're like, okay, I'll try
Sure.
it.
And it was amazing. We like flotation
Oh,
tanks
that's so
and
cool.
birthing and Reiki and breath work and
Mhm.
holotropic breath work. I mean,
That's
I always
amazing.
say like Richard and I were two of the most healed um 25-year-olds ever, because
Truly.
we'd just done so much, and it was just the journey that we went on together, and we loved it. Like
That's
it
awesome.
was, yeah, it was, while other people were partying and out
Right.
doing like other things,
The
we were
work.
working on ourselves.
Yeah. It's soul work,
And
right?
people
It's
Yeah.
don't realize you
Mhm.
need to do that. You need to take time to pause, reflect, work on yourself.
Yeah, and I think like looking back, how I think it was Stephen Jobs said that when you look back, you can see how your life lines up, how all of it is connected, and what it means to you today. And I realize now, that that was all part of a very large scale plan, for both of us, that we had to do that work really young. We had to get grounded and centered because, of course, once we had a family,
Yeah.
Hmm.
that was our grounding and centering, and that's anything but grounding and centering most of the time,
Yep.
right?
Oh yeah.
The chaos of
Talk about
motherhood. Yeah.
sweating the small stuff. What do we sweat the
Yes.
most? We
Oh
sweat
my
our
gosh.
kids.
Yep.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And I love that you were able to keep the brand going because obviously Don't Sweat the Small Stuff was just the beginning
Hmm.
of
Yeah.
everything that you've been able to like grow the brand into, which is amazing.
Don't sweat the
Yeah,
small
like
stuff.
he had written, I mean, the book was I think eight books strong when he passed, and then I've added a couple books to the series. And then I wrote Don't Sweat the Small Stuff in Love with him. And
Oh,
then I wrote Don't Sweat the Small Stuff for women when he was still, that was my first Don't Sweat book solo, but he was with me. And
Was
then
that
when,
good to have his guidance as
yeah, oh, it
yeah.
taught
Well,
me how to do
you
it.
were like
Yeah.
unsure about it, right? At first, you were
Oh,
like, this was a
totally.
challenge. Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't want to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
I was like, why would I do that to my life? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want your life,
Right.
I don't want your life and my life. I like
Yeah.
my life,
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I really wasn't, I kind of wrote that book and I put it away. And it wasn't until after he died that my good friend Christina Rilo, who reached out to me because of Heartbroken Open, that was my first book I published after
Right.
that book. And when she reached out to me and we were talking one day and I go, well, who am I? And she goes, Chris, you're a New York Times bestselling author
Yes.
of one of the largest publishing phenomenons in the world.
Yep.
And I was like, oh yeah.
So well, that like goes back to how many times we talk about like imposter syndrome. You
Uh-huh.
literally have the accolade,
Yes. But you
and you're
didn't
still
know.
kind
You
of
doubted yourself.
questioning
Yes.
yourself about,
Yeah, well,
yeah,
I just never really
of
aspired to
course.
being an author. It was his career, and I jumped on board for a time, and then I jumped off and went back to my life.
Yeah.
And I would speak now and then, like different nonprofits would ask me to speak, and I would go speak. So I was definitely, but I wasn't like I wasn't trying to pursue a career
Yeah.
as an author at that time.
Yeah.
But I also wasn't sure what I had to say. I
Well,
wasn't
that's what I was
sure
going
what
to
I would
ask.
write
Like,
about.
how did you formulate, in terms of purchasing, in terms of writing that book, as someone who didn't aspire to be an author, how did you dig deep into yourself to, bring that out?
You mean don't sweat the small stuff for women?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I just, Richard sat down with me and he kind of explained to me, the format that I could follow. And
Hmm.
once I decided to do it, I actually realized I was a writer because
Oh.
my editor that I was working with, she's like, geez, you can really write. Like, she's like, I was worried working with you, but man, you're
Yeah.
a good writer.
It just flowed from you. That's
It
amazing.
did. It
Yeah.
Yeah.
did. So it was like Richard knew because I had a business background and I used to write these incredible letters and I was a poet when I was younger
Oh.
and I wrote great essays in college. And so he always knew, like sometimes he would say, God, you're a better writer than I am. And I'm like, no, I'm not, and I'd be like, so he always knew I think I was a writer, but
Give you that little
I
like,
didn't want to own it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want to own it. And a lot of that I think has to do with as his woman and has his wife and the kind of life we lived, even though he was always surprised I was so traditional because he never expected that from me.
Right.
I was traditional and
Mhm.
I wanted to support him and I was okay being in the background versus in the
Sure.
forefront. And I also, I think intuitively, I knew it was his time.
Oh.
I knew it was his time
Yeah.
and what he had to offer and who he was, and he needed my support.
Yeah.
And so that was my role.
I love that you guys are both being authentic. You were being authentic in how you felt and supporting him, and he was being authentic and living his life. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he was always pulling me to the front. And he was also, it was smart. Like he prepared me for what was to come.
Yeah.
Had I not written a book, had I not understood the publishing industry the way I did, had I not understood marketing the way I did, it would have been much more difficult for me to sit and start to, claim the brand is mine and to bring forward to continue for him. It would have been a much harder job for me to step into that role, but
Mhm.
he had prepared me and he had prepared me well for that role and always kept me very much in the loop about what was going on with our brand, what he was envisioning. So I was very prepared to step in and I'm not sure I would have done it if I hadn't had that preparation. It would have been very overwhelming and it was overwhelming,
I can imagine.
but it also gave me great purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a true partnership, right? That's how
Yeah.
obviously it's a partnership, and you're right. It gave you purpose, especially losing your husband unexpectedly.
Hmm.
There's no preparation for that. There's no playbook for that.
Where do you
Everyone
go? Yeah.
grieves differently.
Hmm.
But I think obviously the anchors, and I felt this way about losing my husband, obviously your children. That's your
Hmm.
anchor
Yeah.
right there because their happiness, their safety, health, all of that takes the forefront of anything else really.
That's
And
happening.
then,
Yeah.
to continue moving forward, the message that he's putting out to the masses, which is a positive, loving message, really as like a second anchor, a second
Yes.
baby, to have absolutely help you during the grieving process. And just reading Heartbroken Open, I mean, gosh, so many parallels between my grief journey too and yours. And, I would say for anybody, God, I pray no one ever experiences losing a spouse in that capacity or too young, because it's just awful. But I would recommend anyone read that book because it gives hope, right? Because when you're in the depths of, the early days of grief, you don't see a light. Like
Yeah.
there's just like no light whatsoever. How does anything ever feel good again, And then eventually it does, and it takes time, but you did the work too. You do have to put work into it. And I think one of the bigger things that you wrote about that really hit me was like, because I'm a bubbly, outgoing person, energetic. There was just a point where I wanted to die, like, and not kill myself or commit suicide in that capacity. But I'm like, can the earth just open up and swallow me, or like bring me up to heaven wherever you are, And you wrote about that, and I'm like, wow, like to feel like not alone in feeling like that, because that was a scary feeling.
It was for me too,
Yeah.
because I'd never ever I loved life so much, and
Yes.
I had such a deep spiritual connection to, to the divine, to God, whatever you want to call whatever your name for it is. But I had such a deep spiritual connection, and it was scary. It was scary to realize. And the reason I wrote about that was because I wrote about all of it actually, because I just wanted women to have that companion to grief, and realize that all these things, these weird things that are happening in your body, these weird thoughts you're having, all these just strange things are completely normal. And the reason why you wanted to die, and you wanted the earth to swallow you up, because you were dying. You are dying a death when your husband dies, and you're dying the death of a dream of living with that person in the way that in the way that you dreamed of living with them till you were old. So it's a tough passage, and it is, death and loss is the toughest thing that we have to deal with in this life. And yeah, and even illness is up there with it too, but loss is the most difficult detachment that we have to make. And it's not easy. It's not for the definitely not for the weak or weary.
No, definitely not. But you also mentioned too, because you are spiritual and you're connected, and Richard as well. And I am too. That's how I live my life. I know that we're energy and we're connected in different planes, and my husband knew this. I had lost my mom in 2017, so he knew that to me signs were very important. And
Mm.
I mean, the next day that
Oh.
he just started, and it was like
Oh,
undeniable. I mean, even it's been almost 6 years
I
since
just
he
got
passed
chills.
away. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
he shows up all the
I
time,
love
and
that.
so like knowing that they're around, even though we can't see them, is helpful in a way to move forward, right?
Yes.
To say like, okay, well, I can't see you, but I know you're the wind in the sails, and you're pushing us along, and like we're gonna
Totally.
be okay,
Yeah.
and it takes time.
Yeah.
And I remember like actually that the summer my husband passed away in April, but that summer I met you for the first time, and I remember like stepping out and meeting you for lunch, and I was like, oh, there's a little glimmer
Of
of
open
light,
life. Yeah.
like there's a little, I see the light, it's starting to peek through, and it's just incredible, the whole journey. Anybody out there, I hope you don't go through that, but Heartbroken Open is really going to help you recognize that in your despair, there's hope, there's
A future.
guidance.
Yeah.
You have to trust the process and believe that your loved ones are still there and caring for you, and it's a journey.
Yeah.
It's an interesting journey, and you're right, you mourn the death. Like I look at pictures of me before my husband died, and I'm like, I don't recognize that person sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm a whole new person now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know?
You had a shed. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And I think one of the things that really helped me is to understand that it was up to me to create the connection and the new relationship with Richard out of, with him and spirit and me and body,
Mm-hmm.
that it was up to me to open the invitation for that connection and to nurture that. And I think you've obviously done that yourself, that you've nurtured that connection by being open to the communication that you have with your husband, and that's something that it will never end, like it'll never end. And I'm 19 years out now, so it's been a substantial amount of time. So, but it doesn't mean that I don't still miss him.
Of
Yeah. Do
course.
you feel like
Yeah.
he's with you through this journey of like, continuing
Yeah,
your
I've
life?
always felt that way.
That's
Yeah, I've
awesome.
always felt that way. Yeah, he's just one thought away. So,
Aw. Yeah.
And then for your girls, I mean, obviously they were at such a impressionable time in their
Yes.
lives when their dad passed away. I mean, oh, I just want to hug
I
them. Like
know.
just hug those little girls thinking about that. I mean,
A drastic
how
change.
did,
Yeah.
any guidance or any thoughts to share on how you kind of helped guide them through their own grief too?
yeah, well, I mean, Jazz was just applying to colleges. So, in fact, when, Richard, before he left for his trip to New York, he'd had all the addresses completely in his own writing, addressed to every university and ready to go, for her to get her college applications in on time. And for her, we literally went from a family of four to a family of two in 6 months.
Ugh,
I had to just make space for her to do her life differently. She went to a community college versus the university she had planned. She moved in with a guy that I barely knew, but he turned out to be a great guy.
good.
Oh, good
Yeah,
for her.
and I mean a great guy, not the end guy, not the guy that
Yes.
she's married to today,
No.
but the father of her first child. And
Aw.
and then with Kenna, I had to, well, with both girls initially, I worked with their schools to give them more time in the mornings, like to sleep, to, try and lighten their load in school so that they weren't having their most stressful classes during this first, 6 months of grieving.
Yeah.
And Kenna, she was younger, she was 14, and it was harder for her because kids, they don't know how to
Yeah.
process
Yeah.
death.
Yep.
And so initially she was just in denial. When
Mm.
I was in the deepest part of my grief, she was in denial. And
Mhm.
and then when Jazz left, it became harder, because it meant that it was just the two of us, and that was harder. But it just seemed like everything that would happen in her world would trigger her grief.
Yeah.
And we went through some really, hard times, like where, there was depression, and there were just things that they were manifestations of grief,
Yep.
how grief
Yeah.
shows up in kids. And then when Jazz got pregnant at 19, I've been through a lot with my
Oh,
girls, let me tell you.
you wrote,
I've been through a lot
Yeah.
with my girls. Like,
you wrote Don't Sweat the Small Stuff for Teens, right?
no, my husband
Oh, he
wrote Don't
did.
Sweat the
Oh,
Small
I have
Stuff
to
for
get that.
Teens.
But
Yeah,
do you
yeah,
feel
it's
like you were
great.
did you refer back to it when you were going through all this? Like you're going through.
No, but I always, the philosophy is present in all of the books. So
Mhm.
I just, I did my best to live into the philosophy, but there wasn't a lot of instruction on how to grieve.
I know. And with
No.
girls who
And
are going
yes,
through it.
teenage
Yes.
daughters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
mostly I had a lot of support from friends and stuff too,
Yep.
and mostly I just learned that I needed to hold space,
Yeah.
and I needed to sometimes hold on to her when she looked like she was a hurricane about ready to take off. I
Mhm.
had to just hold on to her
Yeah.
because the agony of watching her pain was just, it
Yeah.
was the worst,
It's hard. Yep.
really hard. Yeah. But both girls are, they came through it, and they've, done really well with their lives. Jazz is the mother of five kids now.
Wow, that's
That's
Uh,
amazing.
beautiful.
yeah, she
Wow.
she works part-time for me,
Amazing.
as my assistant now, and she got her master's in social work.
Oh,
And Kenna is getting married this summer,
oh,
to the love of her life. And
congrats.
so, yeah, it's all, life just keeps continuing on, and healing does happen. It's a really wonderful thing, as you probably both know, when you come through your dark night of the soul, it looks pretty incredibly light. So,
Mhm. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, definitely.
Yeah. Uh,
yeah.
When you were writing Heartbroken Open, how was that process for you? I mean, did you feel like you were reliving your grief all over again? Was it cathartic? Was it all the things, multiple feelings all at once?
Yeah, I mean, over the years, part of what I know I'm supposed to share, through story is how I healed. So a lot of times I have to go back to that first phone call. Almost in every speech I give, I talk about that, and share what that was like. But I think with Heartbroken Open, I felt so compelled and called to share because I started to realize like I've been given all these incredible tools in my emotional tool belt to deal with this. And
Yes.
I thought, I don't know how the average person gets through this. Like, I don't know how because this is so incredibly painful. I mean, you just feel like your person is being ripped at the cellular level from your skin. And it's just so painful. And so I just felt compelled to write that book. And it felt really good because it was so honest and
It
raw.
really
And
was. I give you so much credit for that, all of it. I mean,
thank you.
towards the end, speaking about intimacy, and
Yeah.
like that you're in your 40s, it's like the most vibrant time of our lives. And, your husband has passed
Definitely
away.
the most horny for
Yes,
sure.
exactly. And
I know
you don't want to be out spreading, yourself all over town, but you got needs too. And I'm like reading this, I'm like, yes, she
Oh,
gets it. And you shared such a very
I love that.
raw feel, like that
I
is the
love that.
truth,
Yeah.
and it is raw. And I appreciate that you shared that.
Yeah, thank you. As you know, like once you face the worst thing in your life, everything else
Like
pales in
nothing, right?
comparison.
I'm like, you can't hurt me.
No,
Like,
I was like, probably the hardest thing about writing that book was that my parents read it, and so
Letting them
that was
see
probably
that.
the
Yeah.
hardest thing.
yeah,
So, and they never talked about anything I said in there. So,
yeah,
That's
it's
amazing
okay.
that you were so open and so raw with everything. Like that is huge, and that like obviously helps you, helps
Uh-huh.
so many people be like, okay, I'm not alone. Like,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, for sure.
yeah, well, now I have a business with my business partner called Book Doulas, and one of the things that we teach in our writing course is that it's super important that you are so honest and raw and authentic because your reader, they feel it
They
and
know.
Mhm.
they know. Yeah, and I think one of the things that happened with Heartbroken Open for a lot of women is they felt like they were me because they could be with me so
Yep.
deeply. And I'm not sure that I intended on doing that. Like it just the way it was written,
Yeah.
because it came a lot from my journal. So I just like opened my journal up and I said to I had an editor, I said, let's just weave everything that's gold in this from my journal. So
Mhm.
that's pretty, because you don't write a journal in grief and think anybody's going to
No,
read
The world's
it.
gonna see it. Yeah.
100%. But I will tell you because I read at night after my son goes to bed, and I'd be like reading this. I'm like, oh my god. All right, I'm not texting. I wanted to text you and be like, oh my god, like
Oh,
I felt I felt you. You know what I'm saying?
yes.
Like your
Yeah.
style, how you wrote it, and just the emotion of it. Just really very impressed and taken aback. And thank you, like
For putting that out there.
wholeheartedly,
Yes.
totally, because it's going to help
Oh,
other people.
thank you.
Yeah, what a
Totally.
gift that you were able to do
I even
that.
told my therapist, I'm like, you need to tell this book
Oh,
to anybody
yes.
who's going
Oh,
through
thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a real yeah, it was a real labor of love to put that book out. And it's one of that and From Heartbreak to Wholeness, The Hero's Journey to Joy are
Mhm.
Oh,
those are my two best works that I've ever written for
that's
sure.
awesome.
And
Yeah.
you have some exciting things on the horizon still too. You have a retreat coming up in March, right?
Yeah, so one of the great joys of my life has been, in my work life, has been about 10 years ago, I started leading women's retreats.
Oh, that's
And
amazing. In person,
yeah,
obviously, right?
yeah, in
Yeah.
person. Yeah. Well, of course, there's the online retreats that happened during COVID and
Right.
stuff, but no, and we, of course, do a lot online now, but no, I love to lead women's retreats that are in person. And one of my hallmark retreats, signature retreat, is the What Now retreat. And that's really geared toward women who have gone through a large change and transition at that crossroads of really just wondering, like, after all this life I've lived, who am I now? What do I want to do now? Where do I want to put my energy? What do I value now? How do I want to live intentionally and mindfully from this point on? And so then the retreat is kind of, I give away a course and a workbook, and I ask everyone to do the first four sections of the course, not the workbook. The workbook is quite extensive. So I gave it to my daughter once, and she goes, "Mom, you wrote a 137-page workbook. I'm not doing that."
She's like, I'm not doing homework.
So I tell women, do the parts of the workbook that fit for what you're looking for, but
Sure.
don't, leave the rest, but definitely listen and review the course before you come. And then we do this retreat, and the retreat is just so powerful. And all my retreats are, but that one is really my highest transformation retreat. It's just really fun to see women come in and how they leave with
Is
such
it several days?
confidence. Yeah, it's in Sea Ranch, which is on the Mendocino coast
Oh, that
in
must be
Northern
beautiful.
California. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. And it's a 4-night Thursday. They arrive Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 nights
That's amazing.
with, yeah, 3-night retreat. And it is amazing. Like I've been doing that retreat for, like I said, 10 years. And
Wow.
it's been an amazing thing. And then I take women to Italy, I take
Oh,
them to Bali.
how amazing.
Yeah, I do
Oh
all
my
sorts of
gosh. Okay,
And
when
I
are we
bet,
sessions.
going?
yes. And I bet you the connections they make with each other. Is it cool? You
Oh,
probably have formed some solid friendships and
Hmm.
bonds.
oh my gosh. I get, no, yeah, they are solid friendships. Yes,
Yeah.
people have gotten so close over the years, and they travel together, and yeah, it's really incredible. So, and then I have many women come back, so a lot of times on my international retreats, they're just waiting to see where am I going to go next.
I love it. And they want to travel with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So they're like, I know she's going to pick someplace good. So
Yeah. That's so cool.
yeah, yeah. So
And
it's
kind of
super
like what
fun.
you said before, everybody needs somebody, right, in their corner to believe in them and support them. And I feel like the in-person retreats are so wonderful for people to
Hmm.
feel that connection and love and that support to keep moving forward.
And plus, like women coming together, I think there's just
Magic.
something so spiritual and beautiful and
Yes.
magical about the what I don't even know what's
Yeah.
Well, what
inside of us.
transpires?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we do a lot of circle work. I have a lot of different exercises I do within the retreat that are just really fun that get everybody interacting with each other. And yeah, it's amazing, like just what is uncovered in a short period of time
Mhm.
because once you get women in that space of real true openness,
Yeah.
then they're open with each other once they feel safe. They want to share. They
Yep.
want to share their wisdom. They want to listen. They want to, they want to be a part of the healing process, and they also want to heal themselves. So
Mhm.
it's a powerful container when you enter into a retreat like that.
How often do you host it?
Well, this year I'm only doing one because my daughter's wedding is in
Oh,
Provence, France.
oh my
So
gosh, that's
yeah.
so exciting. That sounds
I
incredible.
know. My one of my goddaughters is getting married May 20th, and then my
Oh,
daughter's getting married June 20th,
a
and
busy year.
and then May 20th is in Sweden, so I'll be in
Oh my
Sweden for
gosh.
that, and then I'll be
Oh
in
wow.
Provence for my daughter's wedding
That's
June
incredible.
20th. So
And
I'll be in
that's
Europe.
quite a ride from the West Coast as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be in Europe for a month, which I don't mind at all, but
Yes. How beautiful.
yeah, but I won't be doing an international retreat this year, but I'll go back to Italy in 27. So
That's awesome.
Where in
um,
Italy? I've,
I take my group to the same place.
hmm
I have women who return 3, 4, or 5 times. It's so special. It's in
hmm
Umbria.
Oh, okay.
I rent a big old farmhouse villa. It's
Mhm.
fully staffed and just an amazing. I love the people, like they're family to me now, Paula and Irish. And we have a retreat there 1 week every 2 years, and it's
Amazing.
always just amazing. Yeah.
Good
So.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah, good energy. And
Sounds
then I don't know,
beautiful.
I have a yen to do what's the oh God, I lost the trail. You know the trail, the the pilgrimage
Oh,
trail.
yes. It goes like through like Spain and Portugal,
Yes,
maybe.
yes. What's it
Oh my
called?
gosh.
Oh,
I
You
can't think
probably
of it.
all know what I'm
But
talking about. No, Palo.
yes, Colo. I can't think of
Yeah,
his, but
Quelo. No,
yes.
no, yeah, it's something.
The Alchemist.
No,
Do they
the
do it
trail
the
is
different? Yeah.
yeah, it's different, but I can't think of
I
the
know
name
what
of
you're
it.
talking
the
about.
But
travel.
something like that, or maybe go to Spain. I'm thinking like that would be really fun to go to Mallorca
Yeah.
or,
Yes.
someplace like that. So I haven't decided yet, but I'll be starting to plan that pretty soon. So
We're gonna have to keep an eye out. Maybe we need to go on a
Right?
trip.
That sounds amazing.
So fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
so fun.
And travel's good for the soul.
It is.
Oh
It
my
is.
gosh.
Yeah, it's so fun. And for moms too. It's hard for moms to get away, but I remember when I was the mom of young kids, I would try to go like on some kind of retreat or
Mhm.
something on my own
To
once
recharge.
once a year. Yeah, just
Yeah.
because I get I mean, just the craziest insights about my kids, even like just getting
Yeah.
away from the
Yes.
day-to-day
You're
routine.
right.
I'd get like all this insight about,
Perspective, yes.
oh, that's why she does that, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Because we're just constantly
In it.
moving. We're in the go. We're,
Yeah.
in the tornado or whirlwind of parenthood. And
And
yeah,
you're
when you
right.
step outside of it and take a look from the outside for like have a moment to think.
You have a different view. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, really, like so much of our kids' habits are also part of our habit
Oh
and
yeah.
Hmm.
something that we're doing to
Hmm.
promote that. And I used to, when I'd go away, I'd be like, oh my God, I now I see what I do. I see how I do that to her,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's the value for anyone of, even if you're in a really amazing marriage, that a person you love,
Yep.
like it's just you get into these habits and these
Yes.
dynamics. And when you can get out of it for just a little while and take a peek at it, you can break the dynamic and you go home with so much appreciation and gratitude. And most husbands typically will realize it's really an amazing thing to send their wives away.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. A life sabbatical for just a little bit
Yes.
is needed.
And
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they come
seriously,
back and they're refreshed and
Yes.
a nicer version of
yes.
Yeah.
themselves than when they're exhausted and overworked
Tapped
and
out.
underpaid.
Yeah.
Yes. And touched
Yeah.
out.
Yeah,
Overstimulated.
Yes.
Right.
overstimulated. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just
There, there's a Don't Sweat the Small Stuff for moms, right?
there is. Yeah,
That's so cool. That what a great gift, right? Like
Hmm.
Mother's Day and all that. Yeah, that's a good one.
yeah. There's a don't say, and it was quite a book to write. Because I mean, at the time, Jazz was pregnant, and I was like, well, this doesn't look good.
Oh.
Like, she's 19, she's pregnant. I think I'll keep that on the lowdown.
Yeah, but you got to work through that. Yes.
But then there were times when I remember when I was starting to write that book, the publisher asked me to write that book, and I had writer's block for the first time.
Oh,
And I was in a mastermind of other authors, and I remember sitting down with them, and I had written a list of all the reasons why I wasn't a very good mom,
oh,
because I was having a hard time finding my writer's voice
Yeah.
because I felt like, how can I give advice to mothers? I mean, this is it was such a huge responsibility for me.
yeah.
And then when I did that, what was great about that was it changed my writer's voice from being a total authority person to being more of a friend and being more in cahoots and in your corner versus like, oh, I'm here to offer you all
Right.
this advice,
Yep.
which really nobody wants to hear anyways. I mean,
Yeah.
and so it was actually quite an amazing process that I outed myself and went through that. And then as soon as I did, I was like, oh, now I know how to write this book. It
Yes.
changed the whole approach to the book. And the first chapter in that book is there's no such thing as a perfect mom.
I
Yep.
love that.
So,
Yeah.
it's just, I think, and I teach that a lot with writers that when you're stuck and you can't get to your creativity, it's usually because of something you need to work through. Like
Yeah.
you're having that, call it imposter syndrome or
Mhm.
call it just self-doubt, fear, wanting to do a really good job and not necessarily knowing the path to do that yet. Those were all the things that were going through me at that time, and I broke through them, and I think I wrote a really great book. I don't know how, the whole parenting game has changed in a lot of ways. I mean, there's so much mindfulness and stuff. I know timeouts aren't even really like they're not really used anymore or whatever, but so I don't know how current that book would be for people who are really into the parenting part of it, but they work pretty good for my kids, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think foundationally
Yes, I
that
feel
all
like
that stuff still
still at the core,
applies,
totally.
yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean,
Yeah.
really, yeah, just and
And we can all use the help.
Yeah.
knowing when to set boundaries, knowing when to
Yeah.
step back, choosing your
Hmm.
battles, all that
Yeah.
kind of
And I'm
stuff.
sure you needed it at that time because, like you said, your daughter was pregnant and you probably needed to be reminded there's no such thing as a perfect mom. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at that point, Kenna was in college and Jazz was on her own. And I was really involved initially, but I told her, when she came to me and she said, she was pregnant, I was like, well, this is a really big decision. And, you're going to raise this baby. I'm not going to be the mom. You're going to be the
Yeah,
mom,
Yeah.
absolutely.
and you're 19. And what you have to understand is you're 19 and you're going to feel like you're 40 by the time you're
Mhm.
22.
Yeah.
So you're going to be taking on a huge amount of responsibility and there's nothing more responsible. So and she, man, she did it and she's been a great mom. Like just
Mom
I
of five.
couldn't
That's
be
amazing. Yeah. She was born
yeah,
to be a
I
mother.
could not be more proud of her
Well,
as a
what a great
mom.
role model for her to
Yes.
emulate, you know.
Oh, thank you. I think she does a far superior job than I did.
Aw.
But but yeah, she's a great mom. I'm so proud of her.
It's
And
amazing.
I know Kenna will be a really great mom too when she has that, hopefully she has that opportunity.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I noticed on the back of your chairs, leather jacket.
Oh, you did? You see
Yeah,
that?
I see it.
Oh.
I love it.
Yeah, it's right
Love
here.
it. Paying homage to Richard.
It's very
Yeah.
Beautiful.
big. It's a very big
Yeah.
coat. Richard was a very
Yeah.
big man.
Oh, he's still with you.
Yeah. The only thing I removed out of the pockets were the $100 bills that were in
Nice.
He left it for you.
Yeah, exactly. Give me a
I
little
didn't keep those in
change.
there, but I kept it
Yes.
where I kept it exactly where he put it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you shared your whole story. You've been through so many highs and so many lows. And truly, at the end of the day, just don't sweat the small stuff. Like,
It really is. I wish more of the world right now was living into this
Me
philosophy
too.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're just at such a critical
hmm
time in history, and people are just so at odds with one another, and
over small things.
yeah, for small things, and just, bringing kindness back and gratitude back
Yeah.
and really focusing on what matters most. And when you break it down, like honestly, I always say, and Richard said this too, that people in general, it doesn't really matter what age you are, or race, or religion, or what your political beliefs are. When it comes down to what you deeply most desire, you want the same things.
Hmm.
You want a safe place to live. You want
Yep.
to be
Mhm.
able to provide for your family. You want to make sure your family has everything they need to be healthy and secure. And at the end of the day, all any of us want to be is just a little bit happier,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so. And I think when we start to realize as beings and human beings, we're way more alike than we are different.
Totally.
But
Yeah.
it's our ego, and the ego separates us,
Yeah.
and that's, separates us, and we're just going through a massive separation right now because ego, unfortunately, has been winning,
Yes.
Yeah.
and but I think the more people that, keep aspiring to being a loving person, you know, um, keep trying to heal that division. I mean, I've never, not once in my entire world would I separate myself from somebody because of their beliefs.
Yeah.
Like I know too much and understand too deeply that our beliefs are just something that we hold on to.
Yes, they
We
don't
build,
define us. Yeah.
yeah, they don't define us. And I have a very Republican father, and I'm not Republican, but I'm not Republican. I
hmm
see value in both sets of ideals.
Yep.
I'd be considered more of an independent person
Right.
politically, but I listen to my dad and I let him speak, and
hmm
I hear his viewpoints, and I love him.
hmm
So it's like I'm not going to let that change that.
Or stop
Yeah.
your
It's
relationship. Yes.
no, but
It's
so many
sad.
people do, and it's
Yes.
sad. It's
It
very
is
Yeah.
sad.
sad.
I
Because
think the best, oh, sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
Oh no, I have people who I love who believe in completely opposite things, but I love them and they
Of
love me,
course.
and like we can still
Yeah.
come together and have a beautiful connection.
And
Yeah,
we just
sometimes
can
you
be
have
the
to
change,
you
you
have
know?
to agree not to. I did
Yes.
recently,
Yeah.
I did set the rule at my retreats, we don't talk about
I
politics.
love that.
Smart.
Yes.
I mean, growing up, it wasn't something I was told you don't talk about politics or religion,
hmm
Yeah,
out in public, or that's just something
because
that
you
goes on in
let
the home.
people you let people have their belief system.
Yes.
And that's something that I don't know, that's something that's been lost,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
it's we should go back to that. That should be a rule.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
And all we can do is just be spread the love. Like that's all I can do. I can't be like, you need to think of things in this capacity or this the way that
I
I
know.
see them. You need to see them. No,
No.
I'm just gonna be
Light and love.
like right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
That's at the end of the day, that's the most important thing any of us can be. So, yeah.
Well, on that note, we thank you so much for coming on
Yes.
today. This was so incredible
Aw.
to chat with you.
You have a podcast too, right? That people can listen to?
Yeah, don't sweat the small stuff. We are living the big stuff podcast.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So if you need more Kristine, which you will,
Yes.
read her books, listen to her podcast, check out her retreats. Do you have a website, or I guess on your socials,
Yeah,
everything posted?
KristineCarlson.com. If you
Awesome.
go to
Perfect.
the retreats nav, you'll find the retreats that I offer there.
And we're gonna link all of that when we
Yes.
post everything.
We're so
And
excited you're in our world.
yes,
Yeah.
Well, thank
sure.
you. Thank you, ladies.
Yeah.
And it's been really wonderful to talk with you today. And just thanks for having me on. And thank you for the work that you're doing for moms and for women.
Oh,
It's powerful.
It is.
it feels good.
It's like a high every
Yes.
time we get to chat with women.
Yeah. It feels
It's
authentic
beautiful.
and good. Yeah.
Mhm.
So thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a happy new year,
Yes.
and thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for listening. Have a great day.